Pulsating, dramatic, entertaining, crazy. This is what we watched a beautiful game for. And that was literally the last 5 minutes of the Everton Liverpool Merseyside derby, the last one at Goodison Park. But there are now only 13 games left in this Premier League season. There's still all to play for. Can someone escape the bottom three? Will Liverpool hold on the top of the table? Can Chelsea make it into those Champions League places? Will Man United get I can't even finish that sentence because it just seems absolutely absurd. But you never know. You never know. This is One Kick from Glory, and we're going to talk about all things fun in the Premier League this season. And today, I'm joined as always by Matthew. And we're going to start off with talking about the Merseyside derby. That was a fun game from the previous weekend of games. We've had some great games this week, but it's one that I feel like deserves extra special attention because it was the last game at the old ground. Such a special game, special moment. Matthew, how do you feel about that game when you look back on the result now?
I think it was always going to be on the cards where since Moyes has come back, they've been on somewhat of a resurgence. It looked like a whole different team from when Dyche's last one. They're looking a bit more vibrant. They're looking a bit more like they want to score. Looking a bit more like a Moyes team has or it used to be. Man, give a guy a bit of credit. He's been known to have teams that like the player like to score sort of thing, not being too mad defensive, and just shows that the players that they have can actually do it. So considering they did actually score first, and they scored first,
They scored first, yeah.
They did score first. It was always going to be a case because, and actually before I didn't know that's two derbies in the same year. I didn't know that was the first one. So more the plot twists going to be further down the line, but no, it was good. It was a fun game. It's kind of a derby. It's kind of what you want because I feel like the last few haven't kind of lived up to what is meant to be. Beef aside at the end of the game, which I thought was just kind of like, that's just the Merseyside derby of old. We just remember so much kind of thing, giving the stadium one more bit of glory. I kind of think like at the end of the game, it was like, the players like, let's give them something about. Let's fight, let's beef. Right there and then. Let's plot it right there. But lots of fire, lots of action. Liverpool not having their own way, giving them a right, proper good game, and just resurging. The form's continuing with Everton right now, keep winning games, doing really, really well. And it was just nice to watch where it's like a bit of memory lane right there because, Goodison obviously so no longer be with us for the next season. It would have been such a shame for them to go out on a whimper to be potentially relegated. And Goodison to kind of see that out and go to a new stadium in the Championship, losing all their players, the club going further down. But credit to them, they've turned it around really, really well. Gave Liverpool a really kind of a lot to think about. If that was Dyche, no disrespect to Dyche, he did well with what he had. But if that was a Dyche game, I would have had Liverpool walking all over him. That's no disrespect to him, but Moyes coming in, giving a new lease of life, It's fitting that he's the guy that walks them into the new stadium next year. It's just so fitting.
Speaking of David Moyes, I think we talked about some Moyes and Potter, they're returning to the Premier League and back into management and kind of looked at how their respective runs are going to go, I think, a few weeks ago. But what I find really interesting is just how much he seems to get Everton and has really kind of got the players buying into how he wants them to play. I want to shout out the man Beto, and he said in I think his last post-match interview after the Crystal Palace game that they won at the weekend, just talking about how much he feels freer now playing under David Moyes compared to obviously Sean Dyche, and just you can see that in the fact that he's scoring goals again, and that's really important. With Calvert-Lewin kind of being in and out of injuries and form, I think they needed someone to be able to step in and step up. They had that with Decore earlier in the season, and I think now with Beto doing that, it's kind of making things look really interesting for Everton in terms of how they end the season and where they could end up, and we'll kind of come to that a bit later. But how important do you think it is when you get a manager coming into a club, especially at this point in the season when, Sean Dyche has done well at Everton. He's done respectably well at Everton. He's not excelled them to a point where they wanted to go to, but he's kept them up every season. They've been through some tough times. I mean, last year with the points deductions, I think he did an incredible job to get them back to where they were. If you adjusted for them not having a deduction, they would have been much higher up the table and looked much better place. Obviously, things didn't work out as well this year, and I think injuries and maybe just not getting the new signings to gel as much as he wanted to cost him his job. But Moyes is now back. Things are looking very good for them. They're looking up the table now more so than down. Like, how important do you think it is, his return and his understanding of what it means for and not just the Everton players, but the fans, more importantly, wearing that club and playing in that stadium?
I think it left a bigger hole in their heart when they left all those years ago to go on to Man United, and kind of arguably they kind of left off on a good place kind of anyway. They've had decent managers going along the way. They had Benitez, they had Martinez, they had Ronald Koeman for a little bit.
Was
Ronald
there,
Koeman was there. Then they had Ancelotti, which was one of the strangest appointments, but he still went. He still went. So it's not as if they had bad managers all this time. It's just that little by little, their key players kind of left and never really got replaced, and the guys that got in didn't get what it meant to be in a club of that kind of stature. And they went from a club that was competing in Europe or trying to compete for Europe to being a certified Premier League outfit, never been any problems with relegation, to the last few years where they were really looking over their shoulder over that drop, despite the kind of players that you'll have. It's not a good look when your England number one is playing in relegation games little by little. That being said, he's shown a real turn of form this year and it's kind of kept him in it really well. So there's a reason why he's still England's number one to this day. You could argue that they replaced David Moyes with David Moyes after all these years. Not so much for the progress of the club, but like you said, for someone who gets the club, for someone who's the club in and out, and maybe a part of David Moyes for the longest time, always wondered if he was ever going to end up back full circle, ever again, back to square one. They always say try and move on and never go back to, don't go back to your old place or something like that. But the Everton he left is not the Everton he's got now.
Very true.
It's that this Everton is going on to a whole new thing, new stadium, new sense of identity, new wants, new ambitions, bringing in, playing a different style of football, different kinds of players. I mean, the fact that Decore is one of their highest scorers is mad, but he does it really, really well. And with this new stadium, looking at other clubs around, like, Brighton with their new stadium, which was only a few years ago, Tottenham with their new stadium, some other clubs getting a new stadium as well. They're trying to adapt. They're trying to adapt a little bit more to what football is going to be, whatever necessarily what it is. Football is always kind of changing, so it's going to be very interesting to see coming back full circle how much of that change is going to be a part of. I'm going to say they're going to survive this year. I'm pretty confident they will. I said in the last show we did that I'm happy where they're going to be finishing. It all depends where, let's say this time next year in the new stadium, if he's there, what does Everton look like? What does this Everton look like? Is this the Everton that's still kind of finding his feet a little bit, winning a good amount of games? Or are they doing a Forest where they're really gunning for that European position really, really hard? Depends where they are.
I think the important thing with that as well is bringing the atmosphere over from Goodison Park to the new stadium. I think that's going to be the single most important thing they can do. And I just loved the reaction for the fans on full time. On Tarkowski's equaliser, and then obviously you had the long VAR delay and everything. But I just loved the reaction, the limbs in the crowd. Even the fact that earlier in the week, Tarkowski did a video of Jagielka and he practiced that exact same type of strike, exact same type of celebration, and did it in a match day situation. That's what football's all about.
That's what football's about.
I know some discourse online was talking about how, Everton fans are over celebrating. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal because Liverpool would have had that over them for life. We beat you at your home ground for the last ever time. It's the same like when Arsenal were leaving Highbury.
Yeah.
And we had the derby against Spurs and Omri was on the bench. Spurs were 1-0 up. Omri came off the bench. It was like, not on my watch. We drew the game 1-1. And it was like, I'm not having it. You're not coming to our ground and beating us. For you to say, we won, the last time we played at Highbury, we won. Get out of here. No. Not happening.
And you see what it means to those players because it's
100%.
It's important. And it's like, regardless of what happens in your season, even if you end up being relegation fodder, if you don't end up winning that one trophy you really want to win, if you don't sign that one player, if the two things you do in a season, if you're going to do it, win your derbies.
100%.
Have the bragging rights over your neighbours. And honours even at the last Goodison Park, the way they're throwing things, the way they're celebrating, considering where they've been for the last, 4 or 5 years, fighting on relegation, to the point that if it was under the previous system, Liverpool would have walked it. They would have absolutely walked them. But the fact they've got a new lease of life with a manager who for 11 years was in that fixture, if anyone's going to know what it means, even if it is for 2 games a year, 2 games, you win your derbies. You take a chunk out of them. And him taking the 2 points off in the last few minutes in that drama with the VAR checking this and that is the most derby thing you can do in football.
And you know what? It all started off on the actual match day program, which had Mikel Arteta on the front when he was an Everton player, because that's the last match when Moyes was in charge when they beat Liverpool at Goodison Park. I just thought, oh, this is just nice. But anyway, it's not about the title race. It's more just about the derby. But then, having said that, Liverpool bounced back. I could say bounce back. They just continue what they've been doing this season. That's getting wins. 2-1 win against Wolves. They didn't have any shots in the second half, and there's some talk of contentious decisions in that game. But I think what Liverpool are doing really well, which is very important if you want to win the league, is get results. If you play good, play bad, doesn't matter. They're getting results. The key thing is going to be how they cope with their next sort of 3 or 4 games. And in fact, let's talk about that now. Because, as I said, it's the last 13 games left in the season. The title race is coming to a head. Liverpool are in the driving seat, and they are going to believe and hope that they can stay there. And all indications based on previous seasons, that is the likelihood. Liverpool did fall away last season, but no one likes to talk about that. But they did. They did drop from being up there to where they ended up, which is 3rd. So it's possible. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. But I'm not saying it won't happen either. However, their next 5 games are as follows. They have Aston Villa away in midweek. Then they go to the Etihad against Man City. They then have a home game against Newcastle in midweek, the following week. And then they go to Southampton at home on the 8th of March. And then they end that 5-game run with the second part of the Merseyside Derby at Anfield. So, looking at those 5 games, what's your thoughts on the results, predictions, and where you think it's going to go?
They're going to drop points. I'm going to say at least 2.
Okay.
At least 2. I don't know if they're going to drop it against Villa. Villa are very, very hot or cold.
And they've got a couple of injuries as well.
And they've got a couple of injuries. They've just got Markus Rashford, who just needs to gel in that team a little bit. But knowing he's playing against Chelsea in the weekend, he'll probably do it then.
But he might be up for it as well. Liverpool rivalry.
I've already gone down to score a hat-trick against us because that's just what he does.
He's got to warm up somewhere.
Mean-spirited. They'll win that one. It'll be close, but they'll win. Man City, I'm going to say something about Man City what I've never said, but there's a bit of interest around them. I've never been interested in Man City more in my life, but around this time, I did say with them, they just need a couple of good wins to get them on some kind of run. And they put Newcastle to the sword on the weekend.
They're slowly pairing.
Absolutely. And they're not dangerously far away from getting back into that picture to regain what they think is theirs. They just need a run of games to do it.
Yeah.
And that win against thing could be just the thing. Yeah. It could be just a thing. Yes, they're down against Real Madrid, but it's Real Madrid. This is when I can see them dropping points here. I don't know what capacity, but I think I can see them dropping points there.
And also for Man City, if the Madrid tie doesn't work out for them and they get knocked out, they might then look at the league and say, you know what, it's not that insurmountable.
It's not.
They're the weirdest team where, as much as they've been really poor this season, they could very easily go on a disgusting run and then just dark horse it to the title.
That's all they need.
I don't see it, but it could easily happen because they've done it before.
13 games, they go on a really good run. Let's say they played you twice. Mm-hmm. They played us twice. They've got to play a thing again. They've already played Man United twice. We're going to play Man United again? Can't remember.
They have Man United again.
They've got Man United again in sometime again. But
in April, yeah.
That's April. That's another 4 or 5 games.
And also, the current Man United is not the Man United that you'd want to. It's the Man United they'd want to play because they're just a mess.
Exactly, but it could just be another thing with turn up for that one derby game, and that's it. Irregardless, I can see dropping points there. I really, really do, especially with being at the Etihad. I really do. Newcastle. They got Newcastle at home next. Good little preview for the final. I want Newcastle to win so badly.
Cup final or the league game?
Cup final. They could do the league game, I don't know, but the cup final, I just want them to at least know that at least one trophy is not going back to Merseyside. It's like, please, one trophy. Newcastle, please. March, please. I will, just please. I worked at Sports Direct for a year. You owe me, all right? You owe me.
And if you've worked at Sports Direct, you know how true those words are.
You owe me. Put bags and everything. Don't think I'll drop points there. I think they're going to drop points against Everton again. I think I can see it again. The way they're playing right now with nothing to lose and no kind of fear. If they know they can take, again, they're playing derby games within a matter of weeks of each other. This could be if anything, no. I'll make it 3 games. It could even be Fulham. Fulham are no joke. Fulham on their day can be really, really good. I can see 3 drop points there. I see Man City, Everton and Fulham. Really, really do see it.
Well, we'll see how it goes. As long as Mo Salah keeps scoring, I think Liverpool's title chances look stronger and stronger every day. And that's the important thing. We're going to move over to your beloved Chelsea. I think it's been a bit of a weird season. And I do want to ask this question for you. Do you think that Enzo Maresca saying that you guys are not in a title race has unintentionally derailed your season? Because since that comment, your results have been very inconsistent and lean more towards a negative than the positive.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. No, I'm going to start with a no first because I've said it once and again. To win a Premier League title, you need a lot of things that were on your side, and the one thing you do need, with a lot, and it's proven to have a lot of teams beforehand, is maturity and discipline. And for all the improvements we've made from last year, it's something that we really lack, especially in defence and in goal, as Craig would say. Hate to admit, but it's absolutely true. There's no one in our defence that's going to necessarily marshal them up and be like, this is what we're going to do. Plus the captaincy situation. This is the first time in a long time where we've had a captain where they haven't had that. They lack that kind of aura and experience, for going from the likes of Terry to the likes of Cahill, to especially to someone like Aspilicueta. Really played down how good of a captain he really, really was. Such an amazing captain for his time at the club. And right now, playing hot potato between Fernandes, at one point Gallagher, and then Reece James, can adjust your decision making at the time. So you don't have the discipline there. Also, and it would have been very, very much of a miracle for Enzo Maresca. I know he did it with a Championship in Leicester, but doing it with the Chelsea team in the Premier League in this current state against a Leicester team that were firing all cylinders in Championship back then are two very different things. They were Championship buddies, man. They beat everyone to the sword. So that's a no. I'm going to say the yes because there are better ways that you can answer that question. And ask that question is you can say you can look at what Liverpool do right now. Hate to admit, which is where we just take each game as it comes. We beat who's in front of us. The only people who get to decide whether we're title race or not is us and the players on the pitch. Pundits can say what we like. Look at someone like Forest.
That's fair.
Look at Forest. Forest are not in a title race. So their results lately have been a bit poor, but they're in that place because they deserve to be there. The results previously have done really, really well, and plus they're scoring the goals. Where since Christmas, since that Everton 0-0 at Goodison, I think we've only won 2 games away. Were really, really poor. That's 2 the Seagulls have doo-dooed on us twice in a week.
Damn.
And that's not a good result. No disrespect. Brighton are a good team. Let's not take that away from them.
But for your ambitions, you expect to beat them.
But for what we want, teams so Ipswich, especially Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth are games we should be winning. The West Ham game and the Wolves game should have been much cleaner wins. And the fact that we've got injuries with Jackson, Cole Palmer can't be doing it all by himself. And also sometimes in the second sort of season, you kind of figure out kind of what he's doing. So the responsibility kind of goes all on him. So all is not well at the moment. And I think some of the things he said about Robert Sanchez, as much as I agree with him being dropped because it's not worked, there are better ways to support your players. Getting knocked out the FA Cup the way we did was pathetic, quite frankly, really pathetic. It's another trophy we could have gone for. Really another trophy we could have gone for. But yeah, no, it's the comments there about the whole title thing. I think it's kind of it kind of speaks of arrogance a little bit to think that you're in that kind of position where it's not like you're a Conte where you're the players to back it up. As good as our players they don't have that maturity, they don't have that experience, they don't have that kind of back to kind of compete, know what it means to not just physically compete in the title race but mentally compete in the title race. Liverpool are good at it because they're experienced at it. They can they just keep getting results.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is down to mentality.
When I think about your squad as well, I think that it's very unfortunate that you suffered the 2 injuries to your 2 striking options.
Yeah.
Ricky, is that not Ricky Puig?
Anyway,
we know. Barcelona.
Oh yeah.
So you got 2 strikers injured at the same time, and obviously you let João Felix go out on loan.
Big mistake.
And of course, the other thing as well, which no one's really talking about, is the fact that you've got Mudryk, who's currently unavailable due to the, they're chasing up the second of that that positive test for that, I think positive drug test. They're kind of still looking into it to see whether it's a true positive or if it's one of those where it's circumstantial. So he's unavailable for selection at the moment, which in as much as he's an inconsistent player, the qualities he has, especially against a team like Brighton in the Cup, he would have done a good job
He
there.
would have been very good.
And someone you could have brought on later on in these games to kind of give you a different dimension. So you've lost those two. See, January's come and gone. I think both our teams could have done with a striking option in the January window. We didn't do either. And now we're both having to improvise. How costly do you think that window is going to be? And it's very hard to say with Chelsea because you have so many players, but yet it's like you've got a lot of options, but not really sure about the top ones.
They're not. I mean, we lost the last two games. We lost our last two games. You're going to know more once the Europa Conference League kicks back up again. Once that kicks back up, because we're in a very, very good place to actually do something against that. The only issue is that some of the players from that squad were either injured, they can't play, like Mudryk, or they're gone. João Felix was a very key component. A very key component to that squad. He did really well, scoring lots and lots of goals. Not saying that the other players around there weren't doing that, but he was key to that. Same thing with Mudryk. Mudryk was kind of key to that kind of thing. So we all know more. Premier League is the Premier League. I mean, the ambition is fourth. The absolutely ambition is fourth, and it's still very, very doable. We just hope that the injured players come back at some point, with injuries. It's one of those unpredictable things. We'll know more when that Conference League comes into play, because that's something I can see. Our players, the players that we have, I think that's kind of how it happened with West Ham, how it would mean a lot to the group of players that are around them. It's going to mean the same thing to these group of young players, because especially young players, to actually have silverware in their hands to kind of see their achievement. Sometimes with people, kids and adults, even when they're earning the money that they are, they need to see what they're going for. And if they see it and they hold it in their hand, it's going to mean the absolute world, because that's moving on to the next step, which is the Europa League, and then vice versa, and up and up and up. Sometimes it's a case of qualifying for that table. In that table is going to be great, because you've got it. It's there. But sometimes seeing the trophy and seeing that natural slow progression can sometimes be better than just simply getting in that spot on the table. We've seen so many teams over the years that have done well to get into a European slot, whether that be Europa or Champions League, and they don't see the trophy, but they see the fact they've got that spot. It has not worked. Remember when Everton got Champions League all those years ago? Didn't work. When Newcastle got Champions League last year, didn't work. Hell, when Newcastle got European football, when we won the Champions League, it didn't work. Sometimes it's good to see that trophy and holding it in their hand. That's why I really want to win it, because it'll be a chance to have all three major trophies.
That's true.
Which will be the first club to do so. And again, young group of players coming over from other clubs, probably starters from their clubs, who've probably been squad players here to prove a point that they can go into a tournament, actually do well and win. We let down ourselves in the cup competitions, in the domestic cups. Let's pride ourselves in our European pedigree. Back in Europe for the first time in the season. Let's see what we can do. But hopefully we're able to get Mudryk back for those games, because they're coming quite soon. Because otherwise, if the plan doesn't go well in the Conference League, we have really shot ourselves in the foot, to the point that this season could potentially be worse than the last season.
Well, speaking about that, obviously the current Premier League table as it stands has you in sixth place, which is not bad, actually.
It's not terrible.
1 point level on points with Bournemouth, just obviously goal difference puts them ahead of you. 1 point behind Man City, 4 points off Nottingham Forest, who are in third. So it's not insurmountable for you to get into the top four. Looking at your fixtures ahead, so your next 5 fixtures that you've got on the list, you have Aston Villa away, Southampton at home, Leicester at home, Arsenal away, Spurs at home. How do you see those 5 going?
As long as we beat Spurs. As long as we beat Spurs, that is. All right. Okay.
So you got Southampton, you got Villa first, Southampton, Leicester, Arsenal, Spurs.
I think we're going to be fine for this one.
Fine for Southampton.
Going to be fine for this one.
Fine for Leicester.
We need to win this one.
Need to beat Spurs.
This is going to be a funny one, because I'll just see Markus Rashford do something stupid and good and scoring a really good goal.
Well, that's Villa at the weekend, so we'll see what happens there.
This is going to be a big one, because there's 2 clubs coming together who arguably, like you said, should have done better in the transfer window. 2 clubs where arguably their main squads are going to be depleted.
But the interesting thing with Arsenal, we'll get into them more in a minute, is that we're on a 15-game unbeaten run in the league, which is the longest run since Arsene Wenger was in charge.
Yeah.
And yet we don't have a striker. We've got injuries to so many of our key players, but we're still churning out results. I think we'll get into Arsenal a bit more, but I think there's something interesting to say about that in terms of the view of the team for the season. But yeah, I think there's a lot of work for you to do. Obviously, after those set of games, you've got Brentford, Ipswich, Fulham, Everton, Liverpool, and you end the season against Newcastle.
Nah, Forest.
Forest is the last game of the
Forest,
season.
yeah, wait.
So, yeah, Newcastle, then United, then Forest. So your season ends on the 25th of May.
Win that one so badly.
Lots of games to go for. Lots of big games.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you'll make it into the top 4? Or do you think you're going to finish 5th or 6th?
If the point gap is still 4, maximum 5, yes. If the gap is still there, still see Forest. I see Forest dropping. I do see Forest dropping. I do think there's more in case for what happens with Man City as well. So we're looking at those two teams to kind of block that gap with them. So I'm saying top 4 still very possible. Still very, very, very possible.
Okay. Well, chasing the top 4 is definitely something that you will want to do. Before we get on to Arsenal, I want to talk about one team that are whisper it. They're looking at a relegation race if their current form still continues. So I'm talking about Manchester United, Man Red, as they refer to at times. I am shocked. I'm shocked at what's happening. To think that they were 4 points off the top 4 when Amorim was appointed. The weekend before we started, they were 4 points off the top 4. They have slid down that table faster than Michael Jackson moonwalking on an ice rink. It is embarrassing. But great to see.
This is actually for real, man.
But it's crazy because you take a step back and you think, when they appointed Ruben Amorim, we knew he had his style of football. We knew what he wanted to achieve with the team. I can't believe how bad it's gotten.
Bad.
I don't think it's worse than David Moyes' time wasn't this bad at Man United.
No, it wasn't.
Ole Solskjaer wasn't this bad at Man United.
Even Ten Egg.
Ten Egg was not this bad.
It wasn't this bad.
So the big question you wonder is, first and foremost, will he even survive to the end of the season? That's the first big question. Will he even make it? And secondly, does there come a point where you have to put your philosophy to one side and just get results? But let's start with the first big question. Will he survive this season? Because it sounds outrageous to say, considering they've got a project they're going to back him. We know there's a lot of work to do to the players in, players out. They've got to reshape that squad. But I don't think you should be this bad, this consistently, and nothing happen for
Yeah,
them.
no
I don't care however you got players that can't play your football, you don't like them, out of favour, all that kind of stuff. I don't really care. At this point, it's ridiculous that you can't string together good results. So what's your thought? Will he survive the season?
If he doesn't, or at some point when he doesn't, it's going to be an absolute disaster for both. I mean, to save face, to save face for them and not look embarrassed, I'm going to say that he is. Because they want to save face. That doesn't mean necessarily that he should look. If this was Roman, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
Roman, I've had a long time.
But also, if it was Roman by that same token, in January, he would have gotten in 5 players that he wanted.
Oh, yeah. No about he would have got players like this, that, and that. But at the same time, you come in where you got... They brought you in because they see something that you could do. What's that one guy that he used to play at Brighton? What was that one guy that everyone's over at Lisbon? What's his name again? He's still there.
Not Gyökeres, the striker.
Might be him. I don't know whether he was meant to come over or something. I don't know, but you can't keep banking on having a guy like that all the time. You still got a half decent squad right ahead of you, but right now at the moment it's looking real bad considering you let Markus Rashford go for the rest of the season, and you're lacking goals. I mean, since he's gone, I think they've only won one game.
But also, I think the comments around Rashford is that he's not in the right shape. He looks fine at Aston Villa.
He's fine.
I mean, even they tried to spin a story that he was training alone this past week, but actually the whole Villa squad was given time off, and he asked Emery if he can stay and do individual training for a week. So he's showing you the level of professionalism that he was accused of not having at Man United. And I do feel like there's something to be said about that whole story, about pushing him out the door. I don't really like the narrative around it because it's clearly not accurate. And there's obviously more to it than what's being said. That being said, with the players they've got left, they should be able to get results. And against Spurs, they should have done better. Garnacho had plenty of chances to do better with his finishing. Hodgson can't buy a goal right now to save his life. Xerxes, tidy player on the ball, but when it comes to in front of goal, there's not much there. Fernandes looks good when he plays deeper.
Yeah.
But when he plays deeper, there's nothing happening up front. So and obviously Ahmad being injured is a massive loss because he was giving them an outlet and someone who could do something unpredictable. So right now they're really struggling.
Very much so.
But then you think of the players I'm naming, and I mean, Casemiro, I think, had a good game against Spurs, considering people think he's past it. I think he looked decent. I think the defense, I mean, the goal they conceded, the defense switched off. Great finish for Spurs. But yeah, just kind of goal you don't want to concede in a game like that. Good finish from Maddison, but again,
Not standard Man United.
not what you want to see.
It's weird. Like he should he still be in the job? No. Will he still be in the job for the rest of the season? To save their face, save their embarrassment, I'm gonna say that he is, because but they're getting worse.
But then
The key word is that they're getting worse.
does he need to pivot his strategy? Because I always think back to, you always think when a new manager comes into a team and what they want to do. I know when Arteta joined Arsenal, he always had this philosophy in place. The current system we're playing, the 4-3-3 or the 4-1-2, whatever, the 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 variation that we had, he always wanted to play it eventually. And it took him a while to get to this system. In fact, he first started off with the back three, won us the FA Cup. Then he went and he started shifting between the back four and the back three the following season, tried to get to where we currently are. He had a 4-2-3-1 initially. Now it's a 4-3-3 effectively. And he wanted to get there, but he has to take it in stages, because he realized you can't just overhaul everything in one go, because it will take a while. You got to work with what you've got. And I wonder if Amorim, and he's right in saying that you have to suffer through the bad results when you try to implement a new system or a new way of playing. And I get that. But after a while, there has to be a middle ground. Yeah. There has to be a middle ground. You can't tank this season. You can't tank this season with the excuse of it'll get better when I have my players next season, because you might not even have the fans, much less the dressing room.
Yeah, and it's February. You still got 3 months worth of games. You've still got 3 months worth of games.
Let's pull up the league. Manchester United are 15th on 29 points. West Ham have 27 points behind them. Wolves have 19. Ipswich at the bottom three have 17, same with Leicester. The fact that it is 11-point or 12-point gap between them and the bottom three is their only saving grace.
So, but it's not, again, the gap isn't...
But if their results continue as they are, that gap will shrink fast.
Very fast.
Because Ipswich now have a bit of hope after the game the other day.
Yeah.
They might feel like they got something in this. Leicester, against Arsenal, they played well enough. They just couldn't finish their dinner.
Couldn't score.
And couldn't make that crucial chance to score. But they've got something in there. We know Wolves are Wolves. And we know West Ham will get it together eventually. Man United need to really just have a little shake-up.
Even Everton right now.
Everton are looking up. They're on 30 points and they're dreaming of I mean, look, realistically, if Everton put together the nastiest run to end the season, they could be looking at a top 8 finish again.
Yeah.
They could be. And dreaming of more.
They're looking up.
They're looking up. Man United, you should be looking up. And in a way, the thought of relegation is absurd.
But not impossible.
But it's not impossible because the results you're having, they are putting you in a position where that could happen. You have a -7 goal difference right now. -7.
Manchester United.
Are we not embarrassed? Because you should be. It's terrible.
-7.
It's terrible.
10 years ago, the thought of that, no way.
Even under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's worst, the one thing you give him is they scored goals.
Yeah.
They couldn't defend for toffee, but they would score goals.
They would score.
Eric Ten Hag was boring. Boring at times, but they would never down this low.
No.
They flirted with it, but they never got this low down.
They would have a string of results where enough to kind of keep them in the
bounce
conversation.
them up.
They would have a bounce back moment. It almost screams of what, you know how Rooney came to a thing and then got them relegated. It's the same sort of thing. Where at least with Ten Hag, how many points off the top 4? They got this guy, and it's just absolute. I mean, but what's going on in the dressing room to have them go on this bad? What's been said? What's been done? Is there more? We say more, but the state of the club is much more drastic than we think. With stadium crumbling, unsuitable training conditions, facilities just really, really poor. Clearly, still living off those glory days from many, many years ago. And I think it's like they're in purgatory in that club. Literally, just kind of like it's dystopian, like a dystopian society where they haven't been able to let go of the glory years. You hear about me if you. You know it's a bad thing when Man United talk about the state right now. They're always talking about what's happened in the past. Even on TV, always having things happen in the past, not living in the moment. That's costing really bad. Like, look at the Premier League table. Stop being in denial. Like, it's even at your worst, your worst, you're still in the top half of the table, fighting for a European spot, whether that be the Champions League or the Europa League, which is something you're still in right now. Only just. Look at the Premier League table.
It's terrible.
And yeah, this could happen. We're seeing now much more often, the last 6 or 7 years, a lot of bigger clubs, when they don't get it together, because of how football works right now, how other clubs going to all these smaller clubs, it can happen to anyone. It happened to us. It happened to you.
Yep.
And now it's happening to them. Except with these guys, with the brand that they are, it's going to send shockwaves around the system. Manchester United with, I'm not saying they will, and I don't think they will, but the fact that they're flirting with it so badly, and they got this new guy in to clearly do something, and he can't get a tune out of nothing. It screams like they need to have, you know when you say they haven't got a hard look at themselves? This is when they got to have a hard look at themselves. Now we're saying it, now we mean it. Have a hard look at yourself, because if you're not careful, you could be Leeds. If you're not careful, it's unlikely to happen. Like I said, I don't think it will happen, but it doesn't mean it can't happen.
I think one of the things with football as well is it's such a cyclical sport. Things go around in cycles, and big teams have their dips and then they come back, and things happen in waves as well. The problem for Manchester United is that they have been able to win trophies in recent times, which is really good, and that kind of gives you that little bit of capital to rejig and reshape things. The bigger problem is that they've made too many short-term decisions of transfers over the years. And even when you look at the younger players they've bought with a longer-term view, they're not the right profile of younger players for the club. So Mason Mount, for example, I don't get the signing. I don't get it. And it's not a knock at him. It doesn't make sense to me, because Man United's midfield was crying out for a player that has legs and energy. They had McTominay, but they felt like he wasn't quite at the level required. Okay, fine. They moved him on. Mason Mount doesn't seem to fit that bracket. He's a good creative player. He's good at set pieces. He's got a nice free kick on him. But in general play, he's just a more stylish James Ward-Prowse. Give you that. All right? Younger version, more stylish, probably a little bit quicker. But that's probably the best you're going to get. Doesn't make sense. Anthony has no pace. No pace. And the fact that Manchester United had an Antonio Valencia, who was a right midfielder, played right back in his final few seasons at them. He's quick. He at right back was quicker than Anthony in his prime.
And he was a machine.
He was a machine.
Machine.
And well played to Anthony. He's doing well at Betis right now. He's got a couple of goals. Fair play to him. Well done. Claps. But never, ever good enough for Man United at all. Don't get the signing at all.
Not a Man United player.
No sense. He's not a direct winger. He doesn't deliver in great crosses either. So it's like, what do you offer? And the skills you have just didn't land.
Just whack.
Just didn't land. Anyway, that's him. So that's two players they brought in attacking player positions. It just doesn't work for me. You can talk about the strikers all day long. Hodgson, he's young. It just, the money was too much for him, and I think that's just weighing him down. I feel sorry for him because I think he's got a lot of potential, but it's just too much too soon. It's not working out.
He gets injured a lot,
and so I think he needs more time. Injuries. He needs help. Xerxes is not a striker that you play to lead your line. He's a player that needs to play off a striker, and their system doesn't accommodate that. So that's a waste of a transfer again.
Yeah.
Just again, waste of a transfer.
Rashford.
Let's move on from that topic because we talked about
those.
Garnacho, I think, has got a lot to him, but the question marks is over his finishing, and it hasn't developed as it should have done by now. So that's another player who's got a lot of potential, but if he doesn't develop more, he's not going to reach it and achieve it at Man United. So that's another player that's kind of sitting in that middling ground of just wasting time. And then you think of the good players, and then you think of other signings like Eriksen in midfield. Good player in his day, but you bought him at the wrong time in his career. Casemiro, as it's actually called. Another one, wrong time in his career to sign him.
Good
Obviously,
player,
Varane has come and gone, but another player, wrong time to sign him. De Ligt, nice guy. Very good defender when he was at Ajax. But every big club has moved on from him because he has glaring limitations, and one of them is his general focus. Things get past him too often. Mazraoui, well done, a good signing. Dallo, great signing. The goalkeeper, Lord God Almighty.
What has happened to Onana? What have they done to Onana?
It's like Fabien Barthez is back at Manchester United. No, because Barthez was the French number one.
True.
But yet he had errors in him. And he had good seasons, he had good games, good performances, but you just knew and it's not just because he was short. You knew you could get on over him.
Yeah, he had a wild streak. He would do something crazy, just a flick of a switch.
So that's it. The black Fabien Barthez.
What have you done to Onana?
It's crazy.
What have they done to it?
Left back, Luke Shaw can't buy fitness, and I really do feel sorry for him, but it's just the reality. Malachi came and gone. Forgettable. Martinez, okay performances, but just somewhere in the middle. I don't rate him. He's in the middle. He's my Marmite for me. Their squad is a mess. Their squad is a mess. And you just sit back and think, what is it going to take for them to get it together? They've got good young players. We know Kobe Mainoo's reliable, very quality, but he can't do it on his own.
And he's injured now.
And he's injured. I mean, Agate, hit and miss, but I'll give him time. It's his first season. I'll give him the year and see how he is. But there's pieces there where they could get a puzzle together, but the puzzle is looking ugly.
It's like you got a lot of end pieces, but you only want end pieces to try and make a whole puzzle. It's not going to add up.
It's that they are just the most weirdest, frustrating bunch of players put together. It doesn't make sense. There's no sense of strategy in Man United squad building over the last 3 years.
That's the worst kind of thing where everyone else could figure that out. It was like, these guys actually have no plan.
I'll go far as say this. The two biggest mistakes Man United made was hiring Ralf Rangnick as manager and not bringing him on as sporting director. That's the two mistakes he made, because he was a crap manager. We can all admit that. But he understood what was needed for the squad, and you let the man go before letting him put our vision into place which could to build on. I mean, the guy was at Red Bull. He understands how to build squads. Give him a season. They should have given him that one sum. So, okay, you know what, Ralph, you were a terrible manager for us, but you've got a vision. Have a year. Let's see what you can do. And let's see what he brings in. And I guarantee they'll be in a better position than they are right now.
Because he came in just before 10 Hag.
Yeah, he was previous manager. And he had a vision, but then he was a terrible manager. And he couldn't coach them for toffee. But he knew what was needed.
He knew what was thing where they just brought this guy in because he got. You feel like they brought this guy in because he just got a very good win against their rivals, and he's living off that 4-1 against City in the Champions League, and that's why they brought him in. Goes, it's not every day he's gonna be playing with Sporting Lisbon, and it's not every day he's gonna be playing against Man City.
But that being said, to balance it out and give Amarin a little bit of kind of grace, he did have a similar sort of inconsistent start when he first took over at Sporting. And he did ask the board, said it was going to take some time to clear out some players, and they gave him that time in the forward, and says he brought through some players from their academy, made some smart signings, and then got the ball rolling. So we know it's possible for him to do what needs to be done, and it can take time. The only question mark is, are Man United fans going to be happy with this continuing to the end of the season and then giving the man a whole year to try a new thing? That's the only question. Because if they don't mind, let's keep the good times going, baby. Let's keep the good times going. But if they sit there and think, no, I don't want my team losing every week or drawing every week and looking a joke,
big embarrassing,
then changes has got to come. But if they're happy to say, look, we'll chalk it down to it's part of the game, it's just for a season, we'll be fine, by all means, keep the man in post.
I think maybe it's deliberate. Maybe it's a case of, look, I've come in mid-season, the rest of the season not going to look good. But this is what I can do. Like, let's ride out this season, chalk it off, we'll start planning for what I really want. So maybe he's doing it's like a Sporting Lisbon Mark II.
One thing I will say is he didn't want to join right now. He did say at the time when Man United approached him, can I join at the end of the season? They were like, it's now or never. So in one sense, he did want to see the season out at Sporting and then come. But he's here now. He's got a job to do. He's got to get it done. And that's it. And that's it. And talking about jobs to do, just come over to Arsenal. We're chasing now Liverpool. It's still a 7-point gap thanks to their win against Wolves. We left it late and had a stroke of substitution genius, taking off Sterling and bringing on Mikel Merino, who popped up with 2 strikers finishes for a midfielder, which was very good. And maybe he might be this temporary solution until we wait for other players to get back fit end of the season. But that's what you need. You need to be adaptable. You need to get results when it matters. How important do you think it is for Arsenal? Because I think one thing with Arsenal this season which really helped, in as much as we've had injuries, we've not been the most attractive at times on the eye, our defence has been solid. And it's been that way since the back end of last season. We've kept that going for this season. We scored a record number of goals last season. The goals are more spread out across the team this year. In fact, there's no one in double figures right now in the league for Arsenal, which is a bit not great. But yet, we're still second. We're 7 points behind Liverpool. We have a chance. Slim, but we have a chance. They have to drop points, but we have to also keep winning. But how important do you think it is that Arsenal maintain this solid defensive structure where we can get a 1 goal and hold out for a 1-0 or make it 2 to make it nice and comfortable? How important is the defensive structure at Arsenal?
That's got you this far. Makes sense. Got you this far to the point that you said, like you said before, is that you're on an unbeaten streak. So you're not winning, but it doesn't mean that you're losing. So it could be a few draws in there. You think, oh crap, that could have been the thing or been that. But
we've had 1 draw in our last 5, which same run of results at Liverpool as well.
And sometimes it is those draws, as annoying as they have a difference. Remember, a point is still a point difference between 1 and 0. And those are the kind of things that will keep you kind of just slowly bridging that gap just a little bit more. Remember, you're banking. Let's say, for argument's sake, they did win that game against Everton. There would be 9 points. Mathematically, it's not hugely far away. But psychologically, those two mean everything. It's not necessarily a point gain for Everton. It's 2 points lost for Liverpool.
Yeah.
And your bank, and with the option, where you are right now, you're doing something which a lot of clubs, especially for a club that's known for playing attractive football, you're doing something you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do. You're winning ugly. You have to win ugly. And you know what? At the end of the day, when you're the ones holding the trophy, you ain't got no one to ask to. You ain't got no one to talk to. When people used to say to me about Chelsea, boring football, I'm just like, I like your Premier League trophy, mate. You think I'm bothered about any of that? At the end of the day, winning is winning. Winning is winning. Would it be nice to win with very attractive football? Yes. Are you entitled to that? No, you're not. Because at the end of the day, you're not the one in the dressing room. You're not the one with the plan. You're not dealing with the stress of the fact that you didn't sign a striker in January. You've lost some of your, like you said, your main players, your main goal scorers. So it's not even a case of desperation. It's a case of being proactive in that sense. And that Mourinho plan clearly works out for you a little bit. The question is, how many more games does it work for? If it works for the next, including Champions League, if it works for the next 3 to 2, let's say give it 3 games, you're on to something. You just got to hope at some point there, them not at the top sometimes just have a little bit of a wobble. But it also depends on who you're playing next. But it's important that you're not going to win every single game between now and then. I'm just going to say that now. You're not going to win every single game, but
you have to.
You have to. Do I see it? No, but it might be a case of where your defense is going to be key. Absolutely key. So as long as you can keep your defense going as it is, scoring the goals is because you still got players that can score goals. You still got Odegaard, still got Trossard, still got Sterling. You just need to get his back together. And clearly you got Mourinho. So it's either a flash in the pan or maybe a bit of just very cunning planning on the planet or part of Mikel. You never know.
I don't think the squad building is cunning planning. I think we messed up in the summer. We gambled badly in January, and it's bitten us on the bum. And I think it's just the fact that we have a solid defense and a system that enables our players to play well that will get us results.
Yeah, your defense
and probably keep us in contention.
Your defense is the one thing that you can really bank on that's doing really well. Is they are doing their job.
I think the thing that's really helped as well is the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri, who's man of the match of the weekend. Brilliant player. I think you're seeing a 17-year-old who has got that Cesc-like influence, a player that came into the first team, and now everyone's wondering, well, when Saka's back, what's going to happen? I mean, he's going to start. Yeah, because he's made a space. It's just someone's going to have to sit on the bench.
Exactly.
Who that is, that's a debate for another day. But that's just what's going to happen, which is great for us. But I think I also don't want us to overburden him because now you're looking at the games coming up. He's probably going to start most of them, which I don't think he should be doing at 17. But he's going to have to until Martinelli and Saka come back, and that should be one. I think Martinelli first and Saka coming back a few weeks after in March. I think end of Feb, March, Martinelli should be back, and then Saka back middle to end of March. So that will be good getting them back. Obviously, we'll take it to them are both a couple of games to be up to rhythm.
Kind of adapt a little bit.
Yeah. But we need to just keep chipping away and keep picking up points because Liverpool won't stop winning. And the main thing for me now is that when Liverpool drop points, we have to capitalise.
Yes.
We can't, because they've dropped points this season, but when they drop points, we also drop points.
At
the same time. So, it's annoying, but also it shows that at least there's some consistency there between the two teams.
You do as I do. So you do it. If you're doing it, I'm going to do it too.
And we still have to go to play them at Anfield. And that game is probably going to be a title decider if it's not already wrapped up.
Yeah.
And that game will happen.
There we go.
Yeah, 10th of May is when we've got them. So that's the crucial game before the final.
Penultimate of the penultimate
weekend. Well, we still got, we end at Southampton away, Newcastle at home prior to that. So Liverpool away, Newcastle at home, and then Southampton away to end the season. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very, very close to what happens and how we kind of bring it all together. But if we want to win the league, we're going to have to go on a run. And we're going to have to start at West Ham at home at the weekend. We need to get 3 points, and I think the key thing is just get that game wrapped up early.
Yeah,
get the game done in the first half, and then we can relax. Then we've got Nottingham Forest away, big game.
Very big.
I think Forest have been a bit up and down recently, but they're still a very good team. Hard to beat away, but we need to find a way to grind out a result. And then Man United away, just got to beat them. I don't really care about Man United at Old Trafford. Just beat them. And then it's Chelsea at home. It's a home game, derby. It's going to be a lot of emotion riding in that. Marseille should be back for that match. We know he loves a goal against you guys. So, and then Saka might be back. If not, then he'll be back the next game. So that will be a good one. Then it's Fulham at home. So I think the key thing is we just need to keep picking up points. I don't care who plays up front. If Sterling goes up front, if Marino's up front, if Trossard up front, whoever plays up front,
get a goal.
Even win the bloody dog. Saliba up front. I don't care who. Arsenal's objective between now and the end of the season is just 3 points every week. That's it. 1-0, 2-1, 2-0. I don't care what the scoreline is. Just invoke the spirit of George Graham and just grind out 1-0. They can be ugly, dirty, disgusting. Set piece, FC again, ole, 1-0s. I don't care.
Bolton-esque.
That's it. Just get the wins.
Stelios Yanakopoulos style.
And then see where we are in 4 match days time, because by then Liverpool have got some tricky games. It could be a whole different landscape by then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the benefit for them is that they've got a more fit and available players than us. They've got their front options all available. I know Gakpo came off with a slight injury at the weekend, so they might be losing a few people. But as long as Salah keeps scoring,
that's all it is.
They'll be fine.
Mainly him, though. It's mainly him that keeps scoring, because whenever he seems to score,
it goes well for them.
It goes well.
If he goes on a barren run, ooh. But then again, for any top team, if they go on a barren run, their striker, their main goal threat it's a problem. So yeah, we'll see how it goes for them. And then I guess the last team for us to focus on this tonight is going to be a team that have really done a good job of just being very entertaining and also bringing some big upsets and some smashing goals. Mm-hmm. They really have evoked the sense of the Barclays, man. I remember their striker, Unal, scored a wonder free kick after coming off the bench. Bournemouth, that's who we're talking about. How do you rate their year, and what do you think is going to happen for them coming into the season? Because right now, just to kind of give an update on the table, they are currently sitting in 5th place on 43 points, just behind Man City, just ahead of Chelsea. They could make a late push for top 3. 4 points between them and Nottingham Forest, so they could make a push for that. They could also cement Champions League places if Man City got another wobble. But how do you rate Bournemouth's year?
They have done an amazing job. They have done a sensational job. Was it Semenyo and Clive? Mm-hmm. They're instrumental in getting their goals, and not just scoring goals, but they're scoring a lot at the same time. That 5-0 against Forest was a massive statement. Same way when teams go to them. We went there, we barely got a 1-0. You went there, you lost. Man City went there, they lost. When Liverpool went there, what happened when Liverpool went there? I can't remember.
I'll check.
But either way, they've done what I like to say is with teams like, especially when you run your smaller volume teams, if there's one thing you want to do to establish yourself in the Premier League, is that you make your home ground an absolute fortress. You make it really hard to beat, and you stick to your guns playing their football. And you know what? Credit to them, they've capitalized as well on other big teams' mistakes. Chelsea slipped, Tottenham slipped, Man United have fallen off a cliff. They've really capitalized on
Liverpool beat them twice.
Liverpool beat them twice, was it?
Yeah, it beat them away. Liverpool won at Bournemouth 2-0 and beat them at home 3-0.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always perfect. So, they've had a really good season. They win when they need to win, getting in those crucial results.
They beat Man City at home 2-1.
They beat Man City. I think they came from behind to win that one. I think if I'm not mistaken. But they've done.
Oh, no, they're 2-0 up, and then Guardiola got one late goal back. Beat Spurs 1-0.
Beat Spurs, yeah.
Thrashed Man United 3-0 away.
Oh, yeah, that was number one, yeah.
Beat Newcastle 4-1 away. That was a big shock.
Big result.
See the 5-0 against Nottingham Forest more recently.
They were leading against us at one point, and then we got our equaliser. So they've got
something.
They're a team that got that dog in them. They know to fight. Don't like to give up too much. So, but we're seeing that a lot lately, where I want to say the last few years, for all that we complain about the Premier League season right now and Pep dominating everything, what you are seeing is every now and then, it's not always the same mid-table club that's aiming higher and find themselves finishing somewhere we don't normally expect them to finish. We happened with Villa last year, then it happened with Newcastle. Beforehand, there's been teams like Brighton, there's been teams like Wolves. I think Wolves were in Europe for 2 years in a row. And before that, I think it didn't really happen. Hell, even Southampton, not that long ago, they were pushing for that. And despite the fact that all their players were leaving, they found themselves a bit of a fan. They found themselves a bit of form. So it's nice to see that kind of continue. Every year it's a different team that kind of
Wolves
finds
is another big one as well that made that push a few years ago.
Wolves, really big one. West Ham. Who else has done it? Other teams around that have had really impressive kind of pushes. We're like, you know what? They could find themselves. Even though we didn't make Europe, I remember Leeds finishing mid-table in their first time of asking, despite the fact they shipped goals for fun. But in that first game against Liverpool, they absolutely gave them an absolute game. So every year it seems to be, and this year could be Bournemouth, but clearly they take nothing away from any fortunes and stuff like that. They still got to beat who's in front of them and done a fantastic job. Players scoring the goals. That's what it comes down to. It's scoring those damn goals. And considering they've only got promoted last year, people had them for relegation or whatever this year survival, so they've absolutely exceeded expectations. What you don't want, though, is for this to be next year where it becomes a big problem for their squad. So you wonder, competing... Can you imagine how mad it would be? Bournemouth in the Champions League. Bournemouth going to the Bernabeu.
I'd love to see it, though.
You would love to see it. Just be like, I wonder what it would actually be like and see what happened. Just for because I think they'd love it too, bringing in that revenue, bringing in that interest, because their stadium is tiny. Really, really small. But it'd be, it's what football's about, man. It's to answer those what ifs. I just hope that it doesn't overwhelm them to the point that their league form really gets affected. I can see them quite comfortably in the conference, not the conference, sorry, the Europa.
I can
see them comfortably doing that.
And it all goes back to the decision they made to let Gary O'Neill go and bring in Idoni Iraola at the time.
Yeah.
Which was seen as a bit controversial. I mean, I remember Mark at the time said, no, if you know how good Iraola is, this is an amazing coup. In fact, he's going to Bournemouth. Just watch this space. Look what they do this season. Fast forward to now. The podcast is Sear and Wise One, new best.
There we go. Where was he before?
He was in Bilbao. So obviously Mark follows Bilbao quite well. So he knew they're going to get a really good manager. And they really have. And, it took him a bit of time to get the ideas working. I think his first year was a bit up and down with results. But you could see something was cooking. They got some good games and good results in big matches.
There's some good players too.
And they got some exciting players. And now look at them. The pieces are coming together. You got Justin Clive, who is looking like he's stepping into his dad's legacy with fun. You got Semenyo this season, who looks like like he's going to be one of those Premier League mainstays for years and years and years to come.
Premier League man.
Up front, they got options for days. Obviously, a few injuries here and there, but Unal looks very good off the bench, and he'll be looking to push on for next season. They got Evan Nilsson.
Yeah.
He's finding his feet. Midfield, they've got players like Christie, who's been there for a long time, and he always seems to turn up and he's playing well. They just got ballers over the pitch.
Good linchpin in the middle.
Very, very good.
Like a Bournemouth man.
So it's really good to see what they're doing and the players who've come back. Even the story of their midfielder who had cancer and came back from that.
Yeah. Very good.
Just amazing. Amazing. I'm just really impressed with what they're doing as a team. And we hope that they can keep pushing on. As for them, their next fixtures, they have Wolves at the weekend, followed by Brighton away, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Ipswich at home, West Ham away. That's their next 5 coming, or next 6. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what they do in terms of those results and what they can do in terms of performances. But this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. I think they can make a case for, definitely for Europa. I think they can stay where they are.
Definitely.
I think they can start looking up and start planning to just take advantage of any slips from Nottingham Forest. Because if Nottingham Forest slip up, they're in there. If Man City wobble again, they're in there. So I think Champions League is a real possibility for Bournemouth. Imagine that. And they just need to stay there where they are. As we wrap up, looking at the bottom of the table, right now, Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich. Southampton are not confirmed relegated yet, but it's only a matter of time. Unless they can stage the Great Escape. I'm not ruling it out.
It's mathematically possible.
I'm not ruling it in either. So don't put bets on them. But if they survive, it's not insurmountable. Just very much impossible. But not insurmountable. So looking at the bottom 3, Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich, will it stay the same? Or do you think it will change? And if it does change, who's coming out and who's going in that place?
I think this is how it's going to stay.
Okay.
This is how it's going to stay. Even if Ipswich just somehow slip behind Leicester, it means nothing. It just means you're less worse than the others. But I think pretty much the bottom 3, I think Wolves have just enough about them because they're unlucky on the weekend. They did well getting their goal, but a few crappy decisions. It's going to stay like that. I really don't see it changing too much.
I can see Ipswich pipping Wolves to it just because I think Matthias Cunha's been a key goal scorer for Wolves. He's just come back, I think, from injury or from suspension, so he's getting back into rhythm again. He'll get goals, but I'm looking at what Liam Delap's doing.
Very good player,
and I think if he continues this run of getting goals, for Ipswich, if Hutchinson can also keep chipping in with goals and assists, I think they have just about got enough to make it. Defensively, they're a bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
But I think how they play, the aggressiveness of how they play, I think if they can turn up in enough fixtures between now and end of the season, I think they will just survive, maybe with a 2-point gap. And that's it. And I think their biggest games they've got in terms of the teams they need to beat, they got Man United coming up on the 26th. Spurs first at the weekend. That could go either way.
They've already beaten once.
Beat them once. They got Bournemouth again, April 1st. That's a big one. They got Wolves again, or Wolves rather, on the 5th of April. Chelsea on the 12th of April. And then their big game, they've got May 3rd. Obviously got Arsenal on the 19th of April. And they've got Everton 3rd of May. If Everton already got everything sewn up by then, it might work out in their favour. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be the big thing at Ipswich. They need to just get these results. They end the season at West Ham at home. And they have, so their last 3 games is Brentford at home, Leicester away, and West Ham at home. If they can pick up 9 points from those last 3, that will be enough.
It's
It's
impossible.
very much doable.
It's not impossible, especially with their home games, because in this position that you're in right now, if you want something to happen, you're gonna make it happen in your home games. That's your stadium. That's your house. You can't have people come around and disrespect your house. Away is away. Don't have much control over that. But if you want to make things happen, make it happen at home. Make it. I can see them, not so much Leicester, but them making Portman Road an absolute nightmare for their last few home games this season. I can see them being a nightmare.
I think it's there for you, Ipswich. If you want it, you can get it. And I think you might be able to sneak out and stay up this season. But we're going to find out. It's all a lot to play for. And we'll see whether you can make it, whether Southampton can make it, will Leicester make it, will Wolves survive, will Man United get dragged into the conversation? And if they do, will they have enough? Will Ferguson be in the touchline to help them stay up? That is the big question. That is because Scholesy and Gary Neville will camping out at the training ground and Ferdinand to help motivate the boys. But would Ferguson come back and be on the touchline as an informal advisor to Amorim if it comes down to that?
Never say never.
Never say never. And on that note, we'll see you all next time.
Peace.